Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on BitChute, the name of my BitChute channel is Comic Freak. We're going to be going over some articles about George Lucas. Apparently Disney wants him back at Lucasfilm because they think he can right the ship that is Star Wars, currently floundering in the ocean and probably looks like it's going to sink soon. So Disney went back on their hands and knees and are now begging George Lucas to save their cash cow. Let's read these articles. Imagination, inventiveness, and humor. 3 things you probably won't find a lot of in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. At least that's according to the various reviews housed over on Rotten Tomatoes, with the movie's current score on the website standing at a measly 52%. In case you haven't been keeping track, that makes it the worst reviewed Star Wars film in the entire saga. Even The Phantom Menace managed to score a 53% rating. Ouch. To date, there are 471 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for The Rise of Skywalker, and with the movie also now being pulled from tons of theaters, it seems its time in the spotlight has come to an end, and that rating is going to stick, at least for a long while, meaning that Disney's sequel trilogy has ended on a rather underwhelming note, and one person who isn't happy about it is George Lucas. That's good for you, George Lucas. We're all unhappy with it too. I mean, the moment they saw their franchise going down, they started, calling your name and saying that, they're in talks with you and they hope to bring you back in some capacity to save the franchise you created with hard work and tears. The Phantom Menace has a score on Rotten Tomatoes of 53%. Behind it, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker is at 52%. It feels good to see that George Lucas's vision has been, verified. His ideas for the Star Wars movies, in The Phantom Menace could be considered undercooked and just bad at times. They're far better than what Disney has done with the Star Wars brand. Indeed, Lucas has expressed his unhappiness with the direction of the series in recent years, and according to sources close to We Got This Covered, the same ones who said the Mouse House was doing a Bambi live-action remake months before it was announced, and that spoilers would be revealed as a traitor in Rise well before it hit theaters, George thinks Disney has made a complete mess of Star Wars. In fact, he's said to be so upset over what they've done with it that he's even willing to return and help get things back on track. Of course, whether that will happen or not remains to be seen, but it doesn't surprise us at all to hear that he's not a fan of what the House of Mouse has done to Star Wars, and at this point, it wouldn't be too crazy to think that he's planning some sort of return to help put this most beloved of sci-fi franchises back to where it was before Disney took control. Well, I kind of hope he doesn't, as I said. I don't want Disney to control Star Wars anymore, or the MCU. Because going forward, they're just going to make these movies even worse. They're going to mine anything good out of them and turn the characters into Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. Apparently, he once had an actual character once. He was actually heroic and did things back in the 30s and stuff. But then they mined everything out of him, just basically turned him into, that stupid cutout they use with his ears for people's hats. Now he's just this general, good, nice guy with no actual character. I don't want that for Star Wars. George Lucas reportedly down to return to Star Wars, but wants full control. Here we are, the actual article that talks about how George Lucas is maybe going to come back to Star Wars. It's no secret that George Lucas hasn't always been the biggest fan of what Disney's done with their Star Wars sequel trilogy. In fact, the studio's even been pretty open about the fact that the filmmaker was vocally opposed to their approach to the beloved sci-fi franchise. In his book, The Ride of a Lifetime, Lessons Learned from 15 Years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company, for instance, Bob Iger explained that Lucas felt there weren't enough visual or technological leaps forward. In J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens, not only that, but Lucas was also notably absent from the premiere of The Rise of Skywalker. And while you can certainly understand why he's taken issue with some of the recent movies, it seems both parties are hoping to soon get back into bed together. A few weeks ago, we told you that Lucasfilm wants George to return and help out with the franchise in more of an official capacity following his assistance with the aforementioned Rise, which was done more as a favor to JJ than anything else. And while it's still unclear if it'll happen, we've now received another update on the situation. which points to Lucas being down to return but on one condition. According to sources close to We Got This Covered, the same ones who informed us that Spoiler would die in the Rise of Skywalker and that Spoilers would be revealed as a traitor in the film, months before the movie hit theaters, Lucas has said he'll return but only if he has full creative control over the franchise. From what we've been told, he thinks the studio has made a mess of it and feels he needs to get a great amount of control to get it back on track. I tell you what needs to happen. George Lucas himself needs to own Star Wars again to get it back on track. Star Wars should never have been bought by Disney. It should have remained in the hands of George Lucas and his family. They could have, protected it. No matter what the fans say about George Lucas. I mean, he could have hired someone to help him control it, someone he could have trusted more than Kathleen Kennedy, but then again, he thought of her as a friend, so he needs to find someone who could help him do that. And they're thinking about bringing Dave Filoni along as well, so let's read this part of the article. Not only that, but he also wants to bring along Dave Filoni, responsible for the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, with him to turn things around, with the idea being to have the fan favorite act as George's right-hand man. That all being said, our sources who also revealed the big Palpatine twist in Rise way back in September say that there's some resistance from Disney in regards to George's proposal, and understandably so. After all, Kathleen Kennedy is still the boss over at Lucasfilm, for now at least, and while they would love to have Lucas involved again, they want him as more of an advisor consultant. It'd still be an official role, he'd be very involved in future projects, but they're not willing to give full creative control at this time. And that's where things stand for now. If we had to guess, George Lucas will eventually make his way back to Star Wars, but in what capacity remains to be seen, with Kennedy very likely on her way out through. At Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige also said to be interested in taking over the sci-fi property. You can expect some major changes for the brand over the next few years. And Kevin Feige, again, being involved. With George Lucas, they might be able to pull something off, but I have my doubts. Kevin Feige is basically looking to become an SJW himself right around now with what he's done with the MCU's recent edition with Captain Marvel. So I'm not so sure I trust him. He also wants to bring Brie Larson into it as well, I've heard. She needs to be everywhere, right? We just need to have agenda politics that these people don't really buy into and are just using it to look cool. And in reality, they're not cool. They're become the new pearl-clutching Bible thumpers from the 80s, only this time they're rich Hollywood snobs. But if George Lucas does return to save Star Wars, I do have my doubts. He has made bad decisions in the past, namely Kathleen Kennedy. But then again, she, along with Bob Iger, stabbed George Lucas in the back, so what do you expect from people who are backstabbers but to give us a film they can't possibly ever understand? And that's the problem. They don't understand Star Wars. They don't understand the fact that it doesn't need agenda politics. It's a classic hero tale. That's all it needs. You have a guy going to space and become a hero and saving lives. You have space wizards, but they can't understand that. They can't understand heroes anymore, and this is why they fail. They only understand the money. And that's where I find it hard to understand why they wouldn't, go to people who love Star Wars, who understand it, and will make them money. No, they insist on putting these agenda politics in it, because do they actually believe it? I find it hard to believe. Maybe Kathleen Kennedy believes in this stuff, but I don't think Brie Larson or Bob Iger care about it at all. I think they just want money. Kathleen Kennedy just seems to believe in this stuff. She believes in it so much that she thinks women should be working hard jobs too. Jobs they should not be doing because they don't like those kinds of jobs. Yet she wants to put women in those jobs for some odd, inexplicable reason. Because she's a complete ideologue who doesn't understand how people think. And thus when you put someone like that in charge of Star Wars, you get, the Star Wars Disney trilogy. If you like this video, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is going around unsubscribing people, so make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos, then you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Also, please go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel, Comic Freak. My library channel is still under construction, but when it's ready, please subscribe to it. Now please, if you could you share this video, share it on Twitter, share it on Reddit, and share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it'll do the most good because YouTube is not going around promoting their own YouTube creators anymore, and it would really help me if you could please share this video. Now listen closely, it's that time of the day again. Keep checking back in all my future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book, Scumdogs. I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.